The first $100,000 feels brutal, and not because you're bad with money, lazy, or doing something wrong, but because the rules are stacked against you at the very beginning. If you're sitting at $5,000, $10,000, or even $20,000, and it feels like you're pushing hard with almost nothing to show for it, that frustration is completely valid because early progress in money is designed to feel unrewarding. In the beginning, you are the engine, your income, your discipline, your sacrifices, your ability to say no, because your money simply isn't big enough yet to carry any meaningful weight. Compounding technically exists at this stage, but it's invisible, and when something works invisibly, it feels broken. You save month after month, sometimes year after year, and your balance barely moves. Not because the plan is failing, but because when your portfolio is small, your effort matters far more than your returns. A strong market year on a small balance doesn't change your life, doesn't reduce your stress, and doesn't make you feel any freer. It barely feels different from what you could have saved by skipping a few expenses. And that disconnect is what makes people question the entire process. This is the danger zone, the phase where most people quit. Not because they lack discipline, but because the feedback loop is terrible. You do all the right things, yet nothing feels different, and the thought creeps in. I could have just spent this money and enjoyed my life, and I'd feel the same today. That thought is incredibly powerful, and it's exactly where the psychological trap snaps shut, because your future self still feels distant and hypothetical, while the sacrifices you're making feel very real right now. But stopping here is like quitting a workout right before your body starts adapting, because what happens next is not linear, it's exponential and missing. This phase doesn't just cost you progress, it costs you decades of momentum. As your balance grows, something subtle but profound begins to change. At first, you grow your money entirely through effort, but later your money starts growing you through momentum. Returns that once felt meaningless begin to show up as numbers that actually matter. Progress becomes visible instead of theoretical, and motivation no longer has to come from willpower alone. That flip doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen on a specific date. But when it does, everything feels different. Saving no longer feels lonely, investing no longer feels pointless, and patience starts paying you back. The first $100,000 isn't important because of the number itself. It's important because of what it represents. By the time someone reaches it, they've usually built habits that most people never sustain. They've survived market ups and downs without panic. They've learned how to delay gratification even when it's uncomfortable, and they've proven to themselves that they can stick with a plan when it's boring and unrewarding. At that point, you're not just richer, you're harder to knock off course, because you've built psychological resilience alongside financial capital. Getting through this phase is not about optimization, clever strategies, or finding the perfect investment. It's about brute consistency, saving aggressively when it's inconvenient, avoiding dumb consumer debt that steals future momentum, keeping lifestyle inflation in check even when income rises, and treating every bonus, raise, or windfall not as fun money, but as fuel for the engine you're building. This phase is not meant to feel glamorous, and it's not meant to feel balanced. It's a season of intentional imbalance, where effort is front-loaded so freedom can come later. The mindset that makes this phase survivable is accepting that motivation will come later, excitement will come later, and ease will come later. But friction is part of the deal now. Stop expecting this phase to feel good and start expecting it to feel slow, because the first phase of wealth building is unfair by design, but it is also temporary. Once you push through it, money stops feeling like an enemy you're constantly fighting and starts feeling like a tool that works with you instead of against you. If the first $100,000 feels brutal, that's because it is. But it's also the most important phase you will ever complete, because it's the gateway to a world where progress compounds instead of resets. This is where most people quit, not because they can't do it, but because they don't realize how close they are to the shift. If you're in this phase right now, keep going, because this is the point where persistence matters more than intelligence, patience matters more than timing, and staying the course changes everything. Subscribe to vishinvest if you want realistic thinking about money, without hype, shortcuts, or false promises.